Good evening and welcome to the second session of our 2020 Virtual Open Week. This is day 1 of 3 and it's a first for us, as I know it's for you. During these 3 days, you'll be able to participate in a wide range of programs delivered by all of our faculties and many departments, both academic and non-academic. And those presentations are all geared towards supporting you as an applicant, as one of our nearly 50,000 undergraduate applicants for admission in 2021. And we hope that you can make full use of the presentations over the next couple of days. We are really pleased that you could join us, and I hope certainly that you are able to maximize what the faculties are offering over the next couple of days. For this session, I want to deal particularly with your application and the rest of the admissions process in the ways that it will affect you. With that in mind, I want to start by inviting you to submit questions that we hope to be able to get through. And hopefully at the end of the session, towards the latter part of it, we'll be able to take some of your questions and respond to them. In fact, while I'm speaking, some of the questions may already be addressed in the chat of this presentation. Much of my talk today will be centered around a presentation with a few slides, which I'll shortly share with you. And those slides are really geared towards the position you're in today and for the rest of the year and for the rest of the cycle as an undergraduate applicant. They're designed to assist you and to provide you with certain bits of key information for what may lie ahead in the cycle. So I'm going to encourage you to have a look, pay close attention, submit your questions, and we'll certainly try to address as many of them. One last point before I get going, and that is, since we are inevitably throughout the course of this week not going to be able to deal with all questions in these shortish sessions, we will at some point publish these sessions again, along with questions and answers submitted by the many applicants who attended them. So look out for notification in the coming days and we'll inform you about that development. So I want to start by sharing the presentation. So there are just three key aspects of the balance of this admissions year, which I'd really like to address in some degree of detail. And I hope that you're able to get out of it, as I said, the relevant parts of it that affect you. In the first instance, I'd like to speak about what key dates await you for the balance of 2020 and also into 2021. Have a look at some of those key dates and some of the processes and submissions and the responsibilities associated with those dates. Then I'd really like to look at the way in which you can maintain and support your application and keep track of what's happening in your application. And for that purpose, I want to speak a bit about our self-service, our student self-service facility. And finally, we get so many questions around application statuses, what they mean, what they may mean for the future and so on. And I want to say a short word about a couple of key statuses and how they may fit into your future as a new undergraduate student or an applicant hoping to become a new student. In some ways, these three parts are, of course, connected because they impact on each other. So you'll see various strands of ways in which they relate to each other. But let's start with some of the really key dates affecting you and your application. And the first one starts as soon as tomorrow, the 30th of September. So this is a date that, of course, is not new to our applicants. We've been informing you of this date through various bits of correspondence, but it's a key date in the development of your application in the sense that after tomorrow, after the end of September, you no longer able to change your program choices for 2021 admission. So until tomorrow, it remains your prerogative. You may write to us at that email address, or you may select a particular link in Student Self-Service. You can see more about Student Self-Service later, and submit a change request, a request to change your programs for 2021. After tomorrow, unfortunately, that prerogative is no longer yours, and so this is the window. That's when the window ends. So that's a key date first up. In a month from now, at the end of October, is another really, really important date, and this is the date by which applicants must have submitted all their interim supporting information, all their interim supporting documents. So, for example, those currently in grade 12 would have submitted their grade 12 interim examinations and the outstanding reports and so on by then. Whether you're doing the National Senior Certificate or doing a non-South African school leaving qualification, those kinds of documents must have been submitted by then, such as predicted scores and IGCSE results and so on and so forth. So 31 October is a really key date for all of you at school, and for applicants transferring from other universities, that is also the date by which we require your interim 2020 transcripts. So these are not yet the full academic record for 2020, just the records typically for the mid-year progress transcript, and they should be submitted a month from now. So that's some key information. We'll come back to some of those a bit later. In mid-November, the 15th of November is another important date in our admissions process, and it's the date by which undergraduate international applicants must have attracted an offer of some description, whether it's a conditional offer or a firm offer. That date is the date by which you must have attracted that offer. So just a quick word of clarification, this is for international applicants and not international qualifications. So it doesn't apply to South African applicants doing international qualifications. It only applies to international applicants. In other words, an applicant who is neither a South African permanent resident nor a South African citizen. And it has nothing to do with the qualification being taken in grade 12 at all. The reason that is a deadline is because we, of course, will require many weeks, particularly in this difficult year, to procure a study permit to come and study at UCT next year. And obtaining an offer after this date just puts all of our subsequent dates and the process in some jeopardy. By the end of November, typically this is the date by which applications for the National Student Financial Aid Scheme close or have closed in the last couple of years. That closing date hasn't yet been confirmed, but we suspect that it may be 30 November again. And so please be aware of that. That's the date by which need-based funding applications to NSFAS need to be submitted. And that is the URL, nsfas.org.za, which you can use for that purpose. After the end of November, or even by then, of course, many of our applicants are already busy with their final examinations, and that will go well into December. The NSC examinations in the country, whether it's done through whatever of the examining boards, that will finish in the middle of December or thereabouts. So our next key date is the release of those results. And this year, or this year's candidates will have their results released particularly late, of course, because of the circumstances we faced in 2020. In February next year, on the 23rd, we will be able to release admissions decisions based on the NSC results of 2020. And so we would have received those results from your various examining authorities, whether the Independent Examinations Board or the Department of Basic Education or the South African Comprehensive Assessment Institute. We have received them from those three examining authorities for the NSC. We have processed various preparatory admissions processes leading up to the 23rd, but by then, on the 23rd of February, we will release our decisions based on the final results of 2020. So even though thereafter our entire process, the entire period in which to do undergraduate processing will be under severe pressure, you need to know that there's no need to submit results to us. We will receive them direct from the authorities, and we'll be able to proceed with the processing. So please keep an eye out for some of the issues I'm going to raise in a minute relating to student self-service and your application status, because they are all important for the purpose of dealing with those final results. For those applicants, those undergraduates from other institutions, of course, this year has been severely affected by or has severely affected the timetables of institutions throughout the country, including the dates on which they're able to conduct examinations and release results and updated transcripts and the like. And all institutions of the country, throughout the country, are affected. That means that we have, for next year, allowed significantly more time than normal for the submission of final, final transcripts from other universities. And that date is the 8th of March. Note, of course, that if and where your results become available much earlier, it remains in your interest to get them to us soon after those results are released, or as soon as possible thereafter. Please do not wait until the last minute, because as you can well imagine, there is a significant convergence of processing closer to that time. So the 8th of March is the final date for submission of outstanding 2020 transcripts. And so we expect them through one of those channels, please. You may upload them in self-service, or you may submit them via email to the email suggested there. Provided there. Please ensure that they are certified before you do so. They must be certified and bear a stamp of certification before you upload them or email them to us. And then just a week later, on the 15th of March, we commenced the 2021 academic year. Now, you would have noticed that that's roughly 3 weeks after the 23rd of January, the 23rd of February, when results were released and made public. And that means that those 3 weeks that follow, we think will be a severely pressurized period, both for institutions as well as for applicants. There will be decisions that need to be made by institutions very quickly. We'll have to inform you of those decisions very quickly, and applicants will have to act on them as quickly, so that you are at institutions in good time for the orientation processes you may have heard the Vice Chancellor speak of, and for a whole lot of other preparatory programs which we typically have in store for new undergraduates, all in time for the commencement of the academic year on the 15th of March. So those are some of the key dates that lead up to the 2021 academic year. And you'll see that because of the adjustments to the admission year this year, they will have some effects in the new year in 2021 from the middle of February onwards, to put severe pressure on all of us. Please be aware of them. Please ensure that your facilities, such as your mobile phones, your SMS facilities, your email accounts, etc., are completely accessible, so that you do not access these important notifications days after you are intended to. Okay, so we'll leave them for now. And again, if you have any supplementary questions, please let us have them in the interim, and we will deal with them as we go along. I want to move now to a really key part of our process, both for you as an applicant and for us as an institution. And that is the appropriate and proper management of your application in self-service. So I'm going to pick out and deal with selected parts of self-service in these 2 or 3 slides to try to illustrate to you what is and what is not possible in self-service. It's an area we get lots and lots of queries about, and some of the queries are related to signing in, and I want to deal with that right up front. Some of the other queries relate to submitting documents via self-service, and various other issues in between, which we'll deal with, some of which we'll deal with now, and you'll see a bit of them. So, but let's start with self-service and signing into self-service in the first instance. So our applicants, all of our applicants, when you first apply, receive a formal acknowledgement of your application with an applicant number that may later become a student number. And that 9-character applicant number in some ways form part of your credentials for self-service, but be that as it may, part of that acknowledgement or that acknowledgement email contains both a username and a password for self-service. If you have never signed into self-service before, to UCT self-service before, those 2 bits of information should work straight off the bat. There should be no problems. We do encourage you to manage your password and change your password. You'll see even in the screenshot I've pasted onto this slide, we suggest that before you first log in, you go off and you change your password into something more personal to you. But you should be able to log in immediately. So there are all kinds of problems and technical issues that our applicants come across, and some of them are very easily solved. And so please be aware that you are following the instructions very carefully, that you're using, for example, the correct case. It's a case-sensitive set of credentials, that the zeros are zeros and the O's are O's, because your username will contain an alphanumeric, alphanumeric characters, both numbers and letters. So those kinds of things. A lot of it is easily solved, but there are other issues, of course, that are more difficult. And where you require support, please contact that particular email address, which is on the site, for support if you are unable to log in. But it's important that we get you to log into self-service, because once in self-service, you are able to manage your application in the ways I'm going to talk about in a minute. So one of the key ways, of course, that we hope our applicants are managing and monitoring your application is to keep an eye on the status. And I've put a screenshot on the screen with really 2 key elements. The one is the menu on the left-hand side, which gives you some idea of the various actions you can perform in self-service, and the other one on the right, the rest of the screenshot really deals with 2 key sections. The top section deals with your various application statuses for whatever academic programs you've applied to, and they'll either be 1 or 2 programs. As you know, you only have the choice of applying for 1 or 2. And so those statuses, along with the dates when they were last updated and so on, are listed in the application section of your admission status. And the lower half, or the lower section of the admission status, deals with your application for student accommodation. And if in the case of this applicant who hasn't applied for student accommodation, the status will reflect that. Otherwise, your actual status will be reflected there, whatever it is, if you still pending, successful, or whatever the case. So that's a key first step, and that is to know and monitor your status. We receive countless questions about application status, and if only you logged in here, you'd quickly be able to see it. It's a mobile-friendly interface, so you can do so with your mobile phone or tablet or PC, or whatever the case may be, and you're able to view your status at any time. The next piece of self-service that I want to talk about is the ability to update your National Senior Certificate results. So those applicants who are NSC applicants, so the National Senior Certificate, of course, is the South African School Leaving Certificate. So if you are an NSC candidate, and most of our applicants are, you are able to go here and enter the percentages achieved for each subject in whichever exam you are choosing to update. We are of course aware that many schools throughout the country have not written a fair chunk of the interim examinations, and that in fact it is only the term 3 results which we think have been written consistently across the country. So when you applied and submitted your grade 11 results and your term 3 results, which you choose to go and update to your September results or trials, whatever the case may be, you are able to go here and enter the percentages obtained for each subject. Please note that you are not able to upload your report here, and so we do not expect you to upload your report, the one you get at school, scan it and upload it here. That's not the intention. There is an upload facility which I'll come to in a minute, but that's not for grade 12 interim reports. So this is purely for capturing your percentages. Once you've done so, you can save your scores here and then send your report to our email address, and we then verify what you've entered. But do not upload, and there's no facility to upload your report on this screen. So let's get to the upload of supporting documents. So there's a key rule that applies to which documents are uploaded or not. And very simply, if you were able to upload a document such as a university transcript when you first applied, then you are able to upload that document again at this point or throughout the process of being an applicant and maintaining your application. Since you are not able to upload a grade 11 report when you first applied, you will not be able to upload any further NSC reports thereafter. So these documents are to be uploaded, and you'll see there's a menu item sort of halfway up the list of menu items on the screenshot called the to-do list. And where the to-do list lists an item that you can upload, you can come here and upload it. It will allow you to upload it here. Otherwise, you'll get a message such as the one that's described here, which will be displayed for many NSC applicants, and that is that no document uploads are required for these programs of study. That's what the message displays, and that means that you do not need to upload proof of payment or grade 12 report or any of that stuff. You're able to email that to the admissions-undergrad email address, but not uploaded here, please. So a typical applicant at the end of an admissions cycle or throughout the cycle would have submitted documents or all kinds of supporting material to us in 3 ways. They'd either have done some of it at the time of applying through online application, and secondly, some of them would have gone to self-service in the way I've described and gone on there and uploaded some documents or submitted or captured some information, or whatever the case may be. And others would have, submitted some via email or courier or whatever the case may be there. In any event, whatever an applicant submits will be displayed here. So you'll be able to see under my submissions what it is that we've received from your various submissions, whether it's done through your online application or various, submissions via self-service, or at some other point via courier submission or by post or even in person. We'll be able to track it here, and you'll be able to see exactly what the university has in support of your application. So I've lifted out 2 key application statuses that I do want to address, because application statuses at any time after the submission of an application, every application is in one status or another. You've got, at some point the applications will exist in one or other status. Most of our applicants, and in your case, you'll probably have 2 choices, and it's very, very common that those 2 choices are in different statuses. So what I'm trying to do here is to lift out 2 of the most common statuses that our applicants find themselves in right at the moment, our applications are in. So the first one I want to pay some attention to is a status which effectively says that we cannot yet take a decision on your application, and we've deferred such a decision. We've put it back. We will take a decision later. And in order to take a decision, we may need more, further either interim NSC results or even your final NSC results. Now, the reason we use that status is simply because the current grade 11 and 12 results we have for your application are not yet at the level at which we are offering, we are making offers of admission for that particular program. That's really why we have displayed that status, and we've taken that decision. We said we need further and typically stronger results. And if that's the case, it may be the case that we are able to make an applicant an offer of admission for a particular program. So that's a key status, and a very, very common status for many of our applications, because they find themselves in that position. So I thought I'd list some of the possible outcomes of that decision deferred status. And the first one is that where we receive stronger interim results, such as a strong set of term 3 results, which now may compete for an offer and may qualify for an offer, a conditional offer as it may be, we will make such a conditional offer after those results have been received and processed. Right, so that's the first result, that we could indeed convert that status into a conditional offer based on the correct evidence. A second possibility is that even if there are no further interim results that are strong enough to compete for a conditional offer, a deferred decision, an application with that status at the moment may well qualify for a firm offer come the final results. So a set of final results may be strong enough to earn the applicant an offer of admission for that program, whether or not an offer was made previously. And the third possible outcome is that, unfortunately, no offer is possible at all, because none of the results, neither the interim results nor the final, are strong enough to attract an offer. So those are some of the outcomes that await or that may emanate from the decision deferred status. So many of our applicants interpret that email that conveys the status, they interpret it to mean that they were unsuccessful for the application, and that is certainly not the case. This is not an unsuccessful application. It simply means that if we are to make offers fairly, and we are to make offers at the same levels for all of the same category of applicant for the same program, then we ought to act consistently, and that's why this is required. So please have a look at the latest correspondence. If you're in this position, read it carefully, and then try to interpret it in these terms. Another very common status that many of our current applicants hold, and many current applications are in, is that a conditional offer of admission has been made. In fact, the bit in italics at the top of the slide describe what is displayed on the web, and that there's a letter that contains conditions. And so essentially it means that an applicant has been conditionally admitted. There are some conditions attached. And so there are two possible outcomes. Either the offer is confirmed, and that happens in the overwhelming majority of cases. As soon as the final results are released, the offer is confirmed, and so it's no longer conditional, it's a firm offer of admission. Or in the very small minority, unfortunately, the conditions are not met, and the performance in the final NSE results are such that the offer cannot be confirmed. That is unfortunate, but again, in fairness to all applicants, it is the basis for our final admission, and that is the final NSE results. So those are two of the key statuses. There are several others, of course, that if and when a conditional offer is made, we will ask you as an applicant to go online and accept the offer. And of course, then the status changes again, and we say that we've received your acceptance, and the message changes and so on. So there are several of those related statuses, but these are the two most common ones. So should you require any support for your application, I'm going to leave you with these two contact details. One, a telephone number, and for our international applicants, there's the country code, the area code, and the number. And the other one is the the email address for the admissions office for undergraduate applications only. So there are one or two other email addresses, but they are not for you as undergraduate applicants. I'm going to stop sharing there. We return to take one or two of your questions. There is one that's just arrived. Let's have a look. Now the question is from an applicant. Says, if I am an international applicant and I've not yet received my final official result certificate, is it okay sending a certified copy of my official results slip? So that is absolutely okay. Thank you for that question, and it's a very important question, and it relates to other results, let's say international results or non-South African results that are as important. So I just want to spend a few seconds on the issue of non-South African results. Firstly, I mentioned it earlier, but it's important that where possible, you submit a set of predicted scores for your non-South African results. So this is not issued by all schools, but where possible, please submit predicted scores. But as a rule, please ensure that you submit to us whatever you have available the minute you receive it. So of course you won't have received your final certificate yet, but when you get your set of advisory results, please let us have it. So for example, the Cambridge results will come along, and you may or may not have given us permission to access your results, and particularly if you have not, let us have your set of your advisory results as soon as possible. And the same applies for many other qualifications. But yes, please let us have whatever you have as a rule the minute you receive it. That will help us expedite your application. There's another question about an international school leaving qualification, and that is, do we require the matriculation exemption before, or can we do them after we arrive for the upcoming academic year? So it's the case that most matriculation exemption certificates are probably not received before students arrive. And so you are able to, so in short, we don't require you to have the exemption certificate first. You may arrive. If you're admitted, we will do an assessment of your eligibility anyway. We'll do an assessment, we'll admit you. But it remains your responsibility to ensure that we have received the matriculation exemption certificate. You can't, abdicate that responsibility to us. It remains yours. So it is also true that we may apply on your behalf. It means you've got to submit various documents to us and proof of payments and so on. But we importantly do not require you to have the exemption certificate before you arrive as a student. Okay. Are we going to stop there? I think that's the end of our questions. I don't see any further, and I believe one or two of your questions have already been dealt with throughout the presentation. Please let us have any more. We will do this presentation along with a set of others on Thursday, and there will be a full set of presentations from various faculties tomorrow and Thursday as well. Please make use of the opportunity and to attend as many of those as are relevant to you. Thank you very much for your attendance. We're going to end this presentation here now, just a couple of minutes early, and we will see you again tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.